So once you've completed your English paper piecing blocks, there's all sorts of things you can do with them, and one of them is actually turn them into quilts. So if you are making quilts, you're going to want to quilt them. So quilt your 3 layers together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a quick introduction into machine quilting. So this form of quilting is done obviously on the machine, and we use something called a walking foot, which is this little monster on my machine right now. So what this machine has is the ability to attach your walking foot, and it gives us an extra pair of feed dogs. So on the bottom of the machine is actually a set of teeth to pull your fabric through, and on this particular foot there's a set of teeth on the top so that everything runs through nice and smoothly. So we're just going to do some simple quilting on this tumbling block quilt, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch in the ditch because I want to accentuate some of these cubes that are created by the 60-degree diamonds, but I don't actually want to make it quite too obvious. So what I'm going to do first of all is I've got my stitch set to being in the center of my foot. That just means that I can see everything nicely and everything is very visible. So the next thing I'm going to do is hold on to the thread in my left hand, drop my needle and pull it back up, and then when I pull that, my bobbin thread will actually come through onto the top of my quilt so that I can tuck them out of the way. They won't get tangled up underneath and create a bird's nest, and if I want to I can actually stitch those in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stitch what we call in the ditch. Now the ditch is the crease formed by your 2 sets of stitching. So we're going to go very slowly and stitch in that ditch. Now remember, that's where you've actually been doing your hand sewing. So this will actually add a little bit more strength to that seam because it will catch the odd thread as we go along. So now I make sure that my needle stops in the down position so that I can pivot. So what I'm going to do is go down the front of this quilt. Certain sections of it will be quilted twice, but that's okay. I've chosen a thread that is very fine because I don't actually want to see it. I just want to create a raised texture in the quilted areas. So make sure when you come to pivot each time that you have a look at the design and plan where you're going to go next, because I'm going to come along this side to finish off the bottom of that one, down between these 2 tumbling blocks. And then along the edge of this finished one. Now what I'm going to do to finish it is I'm going to reduce the length of my stitch right down, and I'm going to do a tiny little couple of back stitches. That means that everything's going to be nice and secure. Put that back for my next set of stitches. Everything's going to be nice and secure, and then keep these ends quite long so if I need to I can actually stitch them in. So now I've come down either side of this, or down one side rather, of these main cubes. So now I'm just going to go up the other side. So we repeat that process. Grab the top thread, needle down, needle up, tug, And then you could actually do some very tiny stitches here too, just to keep everything nice and secure. My thread is very, very fine, so it's not actually going to show. If I was using a feature thread, if you backstitched, it actually makes it a little bit lumpy. But I'm using something very fine here, so that'll be fine. Pivot. So now I'm going over that same seam again. This is going to actually be quilted twice. Doesn't matter. Because as I said, this is a very thin thread that I'm working with. Now what I could do is I could actually have broken off my thread here and then restarted it here if it was going to be too much of a problem. Reduce the size of my stitch, do a few back stitches. And now I've quilted round some of these cubes so that when you look at them, they do actually stand out a little bit more. They stand a little bit proud to give the further appearance of these being cubes rather than just 60-degree diamonds. So that's it. That's a quick introduction to straight stitching with your walking foot in the ditch.